There's a quiet kind of pain that never makes a sound. You carry it in your chest when you wake up beside someone who doesn't really see you. You carry it in your voice when you say, "It's okay," even when it's not. And you carry it in your eyes, that deep, unspoken hope that maybe love will one day feel safe enough to stay. If you've ever been the one who feels too much, the one who senses what others won't admit, who forgives before being asked, you already know what I mean. You've likely been called too sensitive, when in truth, you were just deeply tuned in. You read energy like other people read words. You heal without realizing you're bleeding. And somewhere along the way, something inside of you broke quietly. Not in a dramatic, falling apart kind of way, but in the silent exhaustion of giving too much. You loved people who didn't know how to love you back. You tried to fix what wasn't yours to fix. You called it love, but what it really was survival. You see, many empaths carry what Jung once called the core wound, the hidden belief that says, "I must be needed to be loved." That's the wound that shapes everything: your relationships, your self-worth, even the way you breathe around someone who matters. It's what makes you attract people who take more than they give, because some part of you still believes that love must be earned. But something shifts quietly, powerfully when you begin to heal that wound. When you stop trying to be understood and start understanding yourself. When you stop begging for crumbs and finally feed your own heart. The world begins to rearrange itself around your healed energy. The same people who once pulled away begin to lean in. The ones who overlooked you suddenly notice. The attraction flips instantly. Because the moment you no longer chase, your energy becomes magnetic. In this video, we'll explore that exact moment when an empath finally heals the wound that kept them chasing the wrong kind of love. Not through theory, not through labels, but through truth, your truth. If you've ever wondered why love felt like walking barefoot on glass, or why the people you give everything to always seem to drift away stay, this isn't a lecture, it's a mirror. You might see yourself here, and maybe for the first time, you'll understand why everything had to unfold the way it did. If this speaks to you, already take a breath with me. And if your heart whispers yes, subscribe, like, or leave a comment to let others know they're not alone, because the world needs more people who feel deeply but love wisely. You were born with a heart that notices everything: the trembling in someone's voice, the moment their eyes shift away, the silence that hides behind their smile. As a child, you learned to listen between the words, to sense danger before it arrived, to adjust your own energy just to keep peace in the room. That was your superpower and your burden. Because when love felt uncertain, you made yourself smaller. You became what others needed just to stay close. You learned that safety came from harmony, even if that harmony meant betraying yourself. Maybe your parents were loving but emotionally distant. Maybe one of them carried their own pain, and you became the caretaker long before you knew what that word meant. You felt responsible for moods that weren't yours. You said sorry for things you didn't do. You believed deep down that if you could just love better, they'd stay. That belief didn't end in childhood, it followed you into every relationship. You became the one who listens too long, who forgives too soon, who waits for someone to change while your own spirit dims quietly in the corner. And still, you called it love because love, to you, was always something you had to earn. This is the invisible law of the empath's wound. We are drawn to the very energy that matches our pain. You attract those who mirror your unhealed parts, the unavailable, the avoidant, the ones who say they're not ready, yet take every bit of your tenderness. And even when you know it's not right, something about it feels familiar. That's the trick of the core wound. It disguises pain as connection. But the truth is, what you crave is not love from another person. It's safety within yourself. The moment you realize that, the moment you stop trying to heal others and start tending to your own ache, everything begins to shift. Because the empath's energy is magnetic, yes, but when it's wounded, it attracts people who need to take. When it's healed, It attracts people who are ready to give. It's not about becoming colder, harder, or less emotional. It's about no longer confusing overgiving with love. It's about remembering that your softness was never the problem. It was just being given to the wrong hands. So when you finally begin to heal that wound truly, deeply, something remarkable happens. The attraction flips. The same people who once took advantage start to feel uneasy. The ones who depended on your need to please no longer feel in control. Because your energy, that quiet, unseen frequency, no longer feeds their emptiness. And in that space, the right kind of love can finally find you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. You start to notice that you no longer explain yourself as much. You no longer feel that heavy panic when someone pulls away. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing, and that's when real love begins, love that meets you where you are, not where you have to shrink to fit. Take a breath. You don't have to prove your worth anymore. It's already written into the way you love, the way you feel, the way you see beauty, even in pain. The wound is not who you are. It's just where the light gets in. When you begin to heal, the first thing that happens isn't peace. It's chaos. It feels strange, like silence after a long storm. You start noticing the patterns you used to call normal. You catch yourself waiting for a message that doesn't come, checking your phone just to feel a flicker of importance. You realize how many times you've mistaken anxiety for connection. Healing begins in the smallest, quietest moments, when you stop chasing, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop performing for love. And suddenly, there's this uncomfortable space between who you were and who you're becoming. That space is sacred. That's where transformation begins. Most people don't talk about how lonely healing feels. Because the moment you stop overgiving, some people will leave. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. But really, you've just stopped dimming your light for their comfort. You begin to see that what you thought was love was actually a transaction you gave to be seen. You healed to be chosen. You stayed silent to be safe. And now, you're learning that love without authenticity is just an echo of fear. There's a kind of grief that comes with growth. You'll mourn the version of yourself who tolerated too much. You'll miss the person who believed that loving harder could make someone stay. But in that mourning, you'll also find mercy for yourself, for the way you coped, for the way you kept showing up even when it hurt. And here's the secret. As you soften into your own healing, you'll notice a quiet shift in the way others respond to you. The ones who once ignored your worth start to feel your absence like oxygen. They'll reach out, confused by your calm. They'll sense that something's different because it is. Your energy used to reach outward, always trying to prove, to convince, to hold. Now, it returns home. And when energy comes home, it radiates. It's magnetic, not because it needs, but because it is. It no longer says, "Please love me." It whispers, "I already am love." That's when attraction flips. When you no longer move from emptiness, but from wholeness. When you stop begging the world to reflect your worth and start reflecting it back to yourself. And in that shift, something powerful happens. The people who once couldn't commit begin to feel uncertain in your presence. The power dynamic reverses. Because now, you are no longer seeking validation. You are radiating sovereignty. You'll meet new people too, ones who recognize your light not because it fills their emptiness, but because it resonates with their own. Conversations will feel calmer, deeper. You won't need to perform to feel wanted. You'll notice you laugh easier, breathe slower, and for the first time, you'll feel at home in your own energy. That's the paradox Jung spoke of. When you bring awareness to your shadow, your relationships change. Not because others do, but because you no longer abandon yourself in the name of love. Pause here, breathe. You are becoming the person your younger self needed, not by chasing anyone, but by choosing yourself. There comes a point in your healing when you stop looking for closure from others and start giving it to yourself. You stop needing the apology that never came. You stop replaying old conversations, hoping the ending will somehow change. You understand that closure was never about them saying sorry, it was about you saying no more. And that's where real power begins to grow quietly, steadily. You stop running toward people who confuse you. You stop begging for clarity. You realize that peace is not something someone gives you, it's something you guard with both hands. In those moments, you start to see love differently. You no longer crave the fireworks or the high. You begin to crave safety, honesty, stillness. The kind of love that doesn't trigger your wounds but honors them. The kind that doesn't ask you to prove, perform, or earn. When you heal, the energy of attraction shifts from survival to resonance. You no longer magnetize chaos. You magnetize alignment. You stop attracting what mirrors your pain and begin to attract what mirrors your peace. It's not that people suddenly become different. It's that your frequency changes. You start recognizing the difference between intensity and intimacy. You stop mistaking inconsistency for passion. You stop calling emotional unavailability a challenge to conquer, and you begin to feel the sacredness of your own energy. You start asking, does this connection expand me or drain me? Does this person see my essence or just my empathy? For the first time, you understand that love is not about losing yourself in someone else, it's about meeting in wholeness. The healed empath doesn't love harder, they love clearer. They know that saying no is not rejection, it's redirection. There's a kind of beauty in this stage, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to be loud. You'll find yourself sitting in silence more often, smiling at how far you've come. You'll notice how drama feels foreign, how peace feels like home. And when someone tries to pull you back into old patterns, you won't even argue. You'll just smile, breathe, and stay centered because you know that chaos only has power where there's a wound to feed on. This is the moment the universe begins to mirror your inner change. New people appear grounded, kind, emotionally aware. They speak with gentleness, not manipulation. They don't chase, they connect. And suddenly, you realize this is what you were waiting for all along. Not a person, but a vibration. The moment you become whole, everything that's meant for you recognizes you instantly. That's what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you heal your core wound, you stop calling pain destiny. You stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility. You stop settling for half-love. And in that clarity, attraction flips completely. You're no longer the one waiting to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. There's a peace that comes after you've stopped running not just from others, but from yourself. A stillness that feels both unfamiliar and sacred. You no longer crave the chase, the drama, or the endless trying. You no longer confuse love with struggle. You no longer need to rescue anyone just to feel useful. When the empath heals, love becomes lighter. It's no longer a performance or a plea. It becomes a quiet knowing that you are already whole, already worthy, already enough. You stop looking for home in someone else's eyes because you finally found it within your own. And here's the magic. The moment you stand in that truth, the world begins to respond differently. People who once overlooked you start to feel the weight of your absence. The ones who used to test your boundaries find no space to enter. And those who are meant for you, those who meet you at the same level of wholeness, they appear naturally, effortlessly, without force. That's what it means when attraction flips. It's not manipulation or some cosmic trick. It's alignment. It's the universe rearranging itself to match your healed vibration. Because healing doesn't just change who you attract, it changes what you accept. It redefines what love means to you. It transforms the kind of peace you protect and the kind of people you keep close. You realize that love isn't about losing yourself, but about expanding together. It's not about being needed, but about being seen. It's not about filling someone's void, but about sharing light freely. So if you've been the one who feels too much, who's been told to toughen up, or care less, know this. Your sensitivity was never your flaw. It was your compass. It guided you through the darkness to find this sacred moment where you stand rooted in self-love. Take a breath, let it settle, feel how far you've come. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer beg, you receive. You no longer lose yourself to be loved. You love without losing yourself. And maybe that's the real secret Jung tried to whisper all along. When you integrate your pain, you don't just heal, you transform. You become the mirror that reflects what love truly is: presence, peace, and power. If this message found you at the right time, it wasn't by accident. Maybe your soul needed this reminder that you're not broken, just becoming whole again. If this spoke to you, take a moment to honor that. Share it, not out of obligation, but because someone else out there is still waiting to hear that they are enough. And if your heart feels called, subscribe, stay close. This space is for the ones who feel deeply, who love honestly, and who are learning to return home to themselves. Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling. Until next time, take care of your light.